Alrighty boys, welcome back once again to another video. How you guys doing? Guys, today we're going to be talking about the Founders Revolt within Fortnite Save the World here in 2020, which I'm sure is something that a lot of you guys exactly weren't expecting from me in terms of a video, as you know, a lot of you guys were leaving ideas on my last video, which I greatly appreciate. A lot of really good ideas there that I will be making into videos leading up until season 12, but this specific video is something that I wanted to go ahead and get out of the way because I feel as though the community needs to know about this, and here's exactly a quick clip of what I'm talking about. So yeah, the Founders Revolt is absolutely and completely busted at the moment, and that's what today's video is going to be about. I got a lot of this information from my good friend Isherwood over on twitch.tv. He is a streamer. The first link in the description if you guys want to go check him out. He gave me all the information about this and why this is happening the way it is and what exactly is going on behind the scenes whenever it comes to the Founders Revolt. This thing is absolutely amazing in its current state. I wouldn't have been able to make this video without Isherwood, so make sure to go check him out. But let's go ahead and deep dive and talk a little bit about this weapon and what's causing it to function this way and why you should be using it absolutely immediately. Okay, so before we do jump into all the nitty-gritty details and all of the information behind why the Founders Revolt functions the way that it does, let's go ahead and get two things out of the way, which is of course the schematic in terms of perks as well as the hero loadout so that you can actually hit these damage numbers to begin with. So taking a look at the schematic page, for me personally, I have a crit rating, crit damage, reload speed, and magazine size, with the element being energy, and I also have of course the final perk which comes with every single Founders Revolt, which says bullets chain to one nearby enemy. And the way that this works is like, you know, it's like on a 1 second to 2 second cooldown. I haven't really noticed that it chains every single time, but it's on a fairly small cooldown, so you will have your bullets actually chaining to different enemies while you are using this weapon, and that's the main appeal of the Founders Revolt and the main source of damage that you guys are going to be seeing whenever it comes to doing something like, I don't know, one-shotting smashers with the bullet chain itself. Now, taking a look at the actual hero loadout that we're using, we have Beetlejuice in the main, which will give us more pistol crit damage, as well as Totally Rocking Out as the team perk. We have Subwoofer's Battle Beat, Hip Shot for damage, Blaze of Glory for damage after a, you know, phase shift, and Plasma Arc. This one can honestly be locked and reloaded or anything else in between. I have Plasma Arc because you have bullet chain on top of the chain lightning, you know, with your energy damage. I just thought it was a pretty interesting dynamic for the Founders Revolt and made it even more fun. So now that we have the perks on the weapon as well as the hero loadout out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the information as to what the Founders Revolt is doing and why it is doing it and what exactly is causing this huge surge of damage whenever you are actually using this weapon and you happen to get that bullet chain. So I was of course talking to Isherwood over Discord, and this is what he had to say. He said, so let's say that you have 400% crit damage on your Founders Revolt, which in this case we do. We have 410% whenever we have Beetlejuice and the Commander. He says if the first shot crits, the chain shot will use the initial critted shot as the new base, which basically what he's saying here is that it will take the damage from the first shot that you do and use that as the base damage for the bullet chain. He then goes on to say that this will apply the damage modifiers such as plus pistol damage, the crit damage, as well as any damage we get from Rock and Riff with Totally Rocking Out, and then can crit again on top of that for 400% more. So the initial shot will become the new baseline, which is the base damage for the chain shot. So basically what's going on here is, let's say we shoot an enemy with our Founders Revolt and we get the 410% crit damage that we have because we have Beetlejuice. Well, the bullet that's going to go off of that husk onto the next one is already started at 410% crit hit damage and is then getting another 410% applied to it from Beetlejuice. The base of that bullet is 410%, but it is picking up on our hero loadout and everything else going on, and then applying yet another layer of crit damage, as well as the phase shift damage, as well as the base, you know, pistol damage that we have in our hero loadout, and causing that chained bullet to do even more damage than it's really supposed to. So basically, you could be critting with your base bullets. You know, let's say you're in a full squad, right? You could be shooting an enemy, and let's say you're critting for, I don't know, 100,000 damage per shot, or let's let's say like 60,000 damage. I believe 60,000 is like a solo game, right? So you are hitting around 60,000 on a crit on a basic husk, but the chained bullet that comes off of that is doing upwards of over 500,000 damage towards any enemies that are around it. And this of course can happen multiple times back to back because of the way that the perk works and how many bullets are going to go off of, you know, the husk and end up hitting other husks. Now, like I said, I don't know how long this has been in the game. We theorized and he talked about how whenever they did change the whole headshot thingy with the Founders Revolt to where it didn't always hit headshots, but we mainly got onto the topic and mainly kind of concluded that the main reason that this is so powerful at the moment is because of stuff like Totally Rockin' Out even further highlighting the fact that it can do this, because the Founders Revolt doesn't really have that good of a crit chance, but whenever you were using, you know, Totally Rockin' Out, you were getting a lot more crit chance than usual, therefore you were critting more often, therefore you were noticing all of this damage that you otherwise weren't noticing, also because of the extra damage that you get on top of the crit rating when using Totally Rockin' Out and having Rock and Riff. So it's a pretty insane thing that we have going on with the Founders Revolt. And, you know, here's a screenshot, yet another example like we did have at the beginning of the video, and, you know, smasher tests and stuff. I believe that this initial number is bugged because the, you know, the husk was already a little bit low on health, but we have right here me shooting a husk for 12,000 damage and the chained bullet going off of that husk hitting the blaster for 610,000 in a solo game. Keep in mind, whenever you are in a full squad of 4 people, you can easily, and I really do mean this, easily hit 1.1 million off of one shot. If you shoot, you know, let's say a smaller husk and have that bullet chain chained to a smasher in a power level 124 zone, smashers have around 1.1 million health, and you can easily one-shot a smasher with a pistol that has over 30 bullets in the magazine and can easily be spammable. So you are able to deal massive amounts of damage, especially if you were doing stuff like focusing the smaller mobs and hoping that those bullets are going to chain to the higher health mobs, and of course, you know, be lucky enough to get that crit with Totally Rockin' Out and cause something like this to happen, which, like I said earlier, it really isn't that hard of a thing to do, and Totally Rockin' Out makes this very consistent and makes it very powerful. I just don't really see many people running, you know, the Founders Revolt in general, and it makes me wonder how many people even know this. I personally did not know that the Founders Revolt was capable of doing such crazy damage and what was behind the reasoning for it, but whenever I started going into solo zones and whenever I started going into, you know, zones with a bunch of group of people, and I started one-shotting stuff like smashers with a gun that can shoot insanely quick, I mean, the Founders Revolt from the ground up is just a spammable weapon, and the fact that you can one-shot something like a smasher, which is meant to be one of the more high health enemies in the game, just goes to show that the Founders Revolt's doing something a little crazy right now. And I wanted to outline that in today's video and talk about it with you guys just in case some of you didn't know, because my Founders Revolt has been sitting on the shelf for quite a long time now, and just as of recently, I've been taking it off that shelf, taking it into the battlefield, and absolutely slaying everything in sight. Whenever you have stuff like Cyberclops to allow you to chain, you know, almost every single shot, you have the bullet chain to chain on top of Cyberclops' chaining, and then you have bullets that are doing over 1 million damage, as to where you're not even, you know, shooting at an enemy, but it's doing over 1 million damage to that enemy on top of the enemy that you're already shooting, you know, dealing damage to. It's crazy. Okay, the Founders Revolt is busted, it's broken, it's insane. I gave you guys the reasoning as to what's going on and, you know, why it's happening, what's going on behind the scenes. Again, shout out to Isherwood, and you know, if you guys didn't know this, then let me know in the comments down below. I'm gonna feel like an idiot if all of the community already knew this, and I might go cry in a corner. But if you didn't know, then I'm pretty happy, as I personally didn't, and I figured that it would be a really cool video topic for today. But guys, let me know what you all think down in the comments down below. Have you used the Founders Revolt as of recent? Is this something that you already knew, or are you now going to pick up the Founders Revolt because it's an absolute insane weapon and probably the best pistol in the game? Although there are kind of a few competitors to the Founders Revolt, but I mean, for this thing being an epic weapon, I would definitely say that this thing crushes the competition for what exactly it's given. But guys, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly do appreciate it. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you did like it. If you did not, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time.